Hi guys, and welcome back to my life. Today has been a pretty damn good day, and it's kind of to do with the EDS. So, if you remember a while ago, a couple of weeks back maybe, I had a bit of a meltdown because I'd been to my doctor's and the doctor didn't even know what EDS was. But I'd pressed ahead. One of my reasons for being there was to ask for referrals that I felt I should have had way back when I was first diagnosed, but had never had. And a lot of this is to do with helping myself feel better, but a certain amount as well is to help with personal independence claim, because despite the fact that it's supposed to be about how your disability affects your life and not about what diagnoses you have, I found that anything that related to a diagnosis I didn't have was being dismissed and it's not considered. And since one of the primary issues that I have, more so than the pain and the fatigue, if I'm honest, is the fact that I cannot stand for 30 seconds even, really, without feeling like the world is closing in around me, hot, tingly, dizzy, nauseous, like I'm gonna pass out, basically. And because I've done a lot of research on the subject, I figured this was probably due to something called POTS, which stands for postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome, and is extraordinarily common in people who have EDS. And, you know, previously doctors have taken my blood pressure and gone, there's no significant drop or whatever. But it turns out that your blood pressure has very little to do with POTS, which I didn't realise. But apparently my doctor didn't know either. And it's more to do with your heart rate. And the primary diagnostic criteria is that upon standing for more than a minute, you have an increased beats per minute of 30 or more above your resting heart rate, that, you know, is persistent and sustained. I've never measured this, so I can't be sure, but nonetheless, I was given a referral, and then yesterday morning I got a phone call saying, oh, we have a cancellation, can you come in 10 o'clock on Thursday, that being today, for an appointment with a specialist POTS nurse. And I was like, yes, I don't care that it's in the morning. I don't care that Stephen and I will have to rearrange some of our plans a bit. I'm not missing this opportunity. So there's no way I'm fit to drive in the mornings like that without significantly more warning than that to prepare. So Stephen got up as well and drove me in. And I saw a specialist POTS nurse. She understood. She knew about EDS. She knows how it affects you. She knows how POTS works. She didn't dismiss anything. She just took a history, and I mean, she knew what to expect, you know. Every time I was lost for words, she said, you know, gave a list of symptoms and said, you know, is it anything like this? And I was like, yeah. I mean, there were a few times I was like, not quite like that, you know, or I rephrased it. But yeah, she knew. She just knew. She just knew exactly what it was like. She did tell me off for a few bad habits that I have. I don't tend to drink enough, especially if I'm having a bad day and I'm on my own. And she said, well, you know, you're going to have to come up with ways around that, because the single biggest contributing factor to making POTS worse is lack of hydration. And, you know, forget the 2 litres of water that a normal person is supposed to drink. I should be aiming for 3 litres of water a day. Or, well, fluids, so we'll accept tea as part of that. And I was like, well, you know, if I cannot make it down the stairs to get a drink. And she said, well, you can buy a mini fridge and stick it in your bedside cabinet. She said, they're not that expensive. And you can keep 4 500ml bottles of water in one of those fridges, so it's nice and cool. And then you've got 2 litres of water next to your bed, you know, so even if there's nobody else there to bring you a drink, you've still got enough to drink. Not plenty, but enough, if you know what I mean. So I guess I'm going to have to research mini fridges now and see if I can find one. She asked if I'd been tested for celiac, which I have a couple of times. The first time I was tested was way back when I was 18. If you remember, I mentioned I had, when I first tried to give blood, they discovered that I was chronically anemic with an extraordinarily low iron count. In among the investigations trying to find a cause for that, they tested for celiac. And this was before there was a blood test. I had to do an endoscopy, which means they stick a tube down your throat. As I have also previously mentioned, I have a phobia of vomiting. That was a very unpleasant experience, and I have no wish to ever repeat it. She said she's going to redo the test, but now they can do it with a blood test. Now, both previous times that I've had a celiac test, they've come back negative. But she does say that 40% of people who suffer from POTS and EDS turn out to be gluten intolerant, even though they have a negative celiac result. Which I didn't think was a thing. I thought this whole gluten intolerance thing was a fad, really. So I've never paid much attention to it. You know, I was just relieved to be told that I wasn't celiac and therefore I can still eat pasta. But she thinks that actually I may be gluten intolerant. There might be something to it. I found that I try and avoid bread too much, although the concept of never having crumpets again upsets me. Pasta's going to be a difficult one because it's a nice, easy food. You know, it's quite simple to make. I bet couscous has wheat in it as well. Ugh, I'm not sure I can live without that. As long as popcorn doesn't have gluten in it, then I'm okay. Cannot live without popcorn. So yeah, I was sent for a couple of blood tests. I'm going to be sent for a tilt table test, which is going to be thoroughly unpleasant. But will be worth it to get the official diagnosis. Just from today, the specialist POTS nurse that I saw believes that she's more than 99% convinced that I do have POTS. So the tilt table test is just a confirmation thing, really. And the blood tests are mostly to rule out a few other things that could possibly cause similar symptoms. But it's just so amazing to talk to somebody who understands. Oh, and she's going to refer me to a physiotherapist who is a specialist in EDS and hypermobility. So should be able to give me exercises that I can actually do and that won't do more harm than good. I've never had so much happen in one day that's so useful, so progressive. You know, it hasn't told me anything that I didn't already know, but it's confirmed everything, and it's moved everything forward in a way that I began to doubt was ever going to happen. So after that, I felt on top of the world. Well, actually, I felt kind of hungry and dizzy, but that's not surprising. I hadn't taken my meds, so I took my meds while I was sat waiting to get the bloods done. And then we went to Meadowhall, big shopping mall on the edge of Sheffield. Had lunch, went shopping. Stephen wanted some new trousers, and he's very particular about which trousers he will have. There must be cargo pants. He's not interested in jeans. He's not interested in anything that's remotely smart. He needs something that has 4,000 pockets so that he can fill them with as much crap. And so that I'm never quite 100% sure that I've checked all of his pockets when I put them in the washing machine. And I'm convinced that I'm going to be washing a £5 note or something. Although apparently these new plastic ones will go through the wash and survive. So maybe I don't need to worry so much. But we successfully found him 2 pairs of combat trousers. So then I went to Superdrug, and bought myself a bunch of cheap makeup, and to celebrate. So lovely new lip gloss that I'm wearing. I think it's a reasonable dupe actually for the colour anyway of the Jeffree Star Deceased that I absolutely love. But this is a gloss. It's a little bit sticky, but it feels kind of hydrating on the skin, which is nice. And well, this is so cute. Just a second. Lovely close up of my double chin. Look at this. It's a rainbow highlighter. So, yeah, I don't know how long till Pride Sheffield is, but I'm totally going to wear this for Pride Sheffield. And apparently I've spent enough money on makeup. Although I didn't think I'd spent that much, but apparently if you spend more than £12, then you get a bunch of free gifts. So I got some shiny new highlighters that I wasn't expecting to get. And even better, one of the beauty influencers who I watch online, Alice Lockhart, I watched one of her videos, and she brings out this palette, and it had a different name on it, but it was being sold in America, and she said, I'm pretty sure this is a British brand. And therefore it's easier to get over there. And she says, but this one highlighter in here is just the best. You don't even need to worry about the other two exist. Buy the entire palette just for this one highlighter. And I'm like, I just got that for free today. It's exactly the same palette. And that's what this shiny is here. It's this sort of pearlescent greeny highlighter. Not wearing any other makeup, but highlighter and lipstick. What else do you need, eh? So, yeah. So since this is EDS Awareness Month, and today has been exciting to me because of POTS, I shall tell you a little bit about POTS from the perspective of EDS. So, as I've mentioned before, EDS is a syndrome. Connective tissue is faulty. Now, because it's a syndrome, this means there's not any one thing that you can point to that says, yes, that's EDS. Perhaps the hypermobility. But you can be hypermobile without having EDS. It's quite rare, I think. Certainly a whole body hypermobility. I think hypermobility in one or two joints is quite common without EDS. But an all-over hypermobility without having EDS or a hypermobility disorder of some sort is quite rare, I think. But it is possible. And yeah, so it's a syndrome. It causes many things to go wrong in the body. And they don't seem like they're linked at first. Is it sliding down? Did I knock it over? But it turns out that they all are linked. And one of the things that it tends to cause is POTS. And one of the reasons for this is, as I've said, your collagen is faulty. So it makes your entire circulation system kind of saggy. So I don't even know how best to describe it. Think of when the elastic in your knickers is going and they start to fall down, or your skirt or your sweatpants or whatever. It's the same sort of thing. So, all the places that your veins are sort of connected in place or whatever, they just sort of sag a little bit, which leads to something called venous pooling, which means that the blood pools in those little sags, which results in reduced oxygen to the brain, to the extremities, so you end up with cold hands and feet. You end up with brain fog or feeling lightheaded, or like you're about to pass out. Sometimes you might even actually pass out. It does happen to me. Most often when it happens to me is in the shower, because I've been standing for quite a while and it's generally hot and humid. You're in the shower. This is flashing at me. Does this mean it's going to stop recording? I think it is.